Hello and welcome to the Evercade Retreat. My name is Gene Joke and today I'm reviewing Cadaver from the Bitmap Brothers Collection 2 for the Evercade. Developed by the Bitmap Brothers, Cadaver was released for the Amiga in, I think it was 1990. It's an isometric adventure game where you play Caradoc the Dwarf as he's trying to, seek out and kill the necromancer Dianos within Castle Wolf. But being a gold-hungry dwarf, Caradoc's main motivation is the treasure he'll find along the way. The game consists of 5 levels, each one is essentially a floor of the castle as you're working your way to the necromancer's inner sanctum. The gameplay is primarily puzzle based, although there is combat, it's not a large focus, and largely consists of Caradoc throwing stones or shurikens at enemies. There are many items in the game, as well as objects Caradoc can push and pull to, help him solve the puzzles. There's also a reasonable number of magic spells Caradoc can use. When Caradoc interacts with objects, you can use different icons to select what you do with it. Investigate, pull, pick up, drink, and so on and so forth. You can also use items out of your inventory, whether it's directly using them or readying them for use, such as with weapons. Naturally, you have limited inventory space, and as you get further into the game, managing your inventory can be quite important. It will take you a while to work out which items are useful and which are not. This also plays a key and it's worth noting that many of the puzzles are item based. Speaking of the puzzles and the adventure itself, the game is quite scripted and obtuse. Don't expect to plough through this game very quickly, it can be very unforgiving. It's also not the easiest game to get started with. The controls can be clunky at times and it definitely takes some adjusting to. It is very much a product of its time, back when games had manuals that you would need to read before you would stand a chance of, getting anywhere with them. But before I follow that line of thought any further, I suppose I should talk about the graphics and the audio. Visually, I think the game is fantastic. It's a very Amiga looking game and almost quite typically a Bitmap Brothers looking game. It makes good use of a limited colour palette, and the chunky looking graphics are very evocative. They really sell you on being in this dungeon castle type thing. It really sells the fantasy setting. On the audio front, things aren't quite as strong. The sound is very sparse. Most of it is absolutely fine, very metallic sounding, but one or two of the enemy sound effects can be quite annoying. Fortunately, they don't come up very frequently. And to be honest, the sparse soundscape really does, help the game's atmosphere. So back to the gameplay. The controls are a bit clunky, the puzzles can be obtuse, but it has a great atmosphere. For me, back in the day, the atmosphere was enough for me to be interested and wanted to keep, playing the game to try and figure it out. I never got very far back in the day because, I was an idiot kid and the game is tough. And back then you couldn't simply go online and find a walkthrough or a guide for a game to point you in the right direction. And I'll be honest, even playing with save states, you'll probably find yourself wanting to find some sort of guide or walkthrough to help you get anywhere in this game. And if you're interested in playing this game, I would recommend doing just that to get started on this game, to understand the logic and mechanics of the game, but also to help you, avoid wasting items and sort of spot the red herrings in the game. And even with using a guide, I would recommend using multiple save states to avoid locking yourself out of completing a level and having to start over. The game really can be quite unforgiving. If you've played The Immortal from Pico Collection 1, then you might have an idea of the sort of game this is. And I would also say if you like that game, there's a good chance you'll like this one and vice versa. I mentioned earlier that I had played this game back in the day, and it was one I've been hoping would come to the Evercade. There's definitely some nostalgia for me here, and in many ways this game is my cup of tea. But it definitely won't be for everyone, and if you can't get past the slightly clunky controls and the obtuse and unforgiving nature of the puzzles, you probably won't be a fan of it. Should you be able to persevere, then you may well find a decent adventure game to enjoy. Placing this in my overall ranking of every Evercade game is quite challenging. It's a game I really like and I have a lot of nostalgia for, but I acknowledge its faults. But this is my ranking, and as far as rankings go, it is personal preference over trying to judge them mathematically or scientifically against each other because, that's a fool's errand. As such, it is going right above Hummings, but just below Tomb Raider 2. Because an adventure game that I can sink my teeth into and that stays with me long after I've played it, that stuff speaks to me more than your simple old school arcade blastathons. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.